because they see that happening at home. So we have to be careful, and make sure that we're modeling stuff that is appropriate.
And I think as parents, it's learning also how to talk to our children, especially as topics change. Welcome, Linwood Unified School District families, to Beyond the Classroom. We're very excited that you joined us for another episode on healthy relationships in honor of February Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month. So I'm very excited to have Graciela Ribota here today. She's our licensed clinical social worker who's been with us almost 10 years here in Linwood Unified. And I invited her today to be with us to talk a little bit about her experience on the different workshops and information that she has provided our high school students on healthy relationships. Again, in honor of February Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month, this is the second episode that we are discussing this important topic, because I think as a community, we need to talk about it. It's really important. We want to make sure our kids, both our male and female students, are safe and are able to have healthy relationships. And I think as adults, we're here in education, and we know that we are here to teach students academics, but we do more than that. Right. We teach them a lot more than just, math and English. So we want to make sure that everybody out there, including families, are aware of the different resources that we have here in our community. So before further ado, I want to say hi to Graciela and thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
So you've been here for almost 10 years as a licensed clinical social worker. Can you share a little bit of the experience that you've had here working in Linwood Unified, like the schools and different things that you've been involved in?
There are a number of things working from elementary to high school, anywhere from individual therapy, family therapy, crisis intervention, and then of course doing presentations and workshops with our students. Some of the workshops include healthy relationships workshops that I've done at several schools. And they've been pretty fun, exciting, and we've brought in some people. As a matter of fact, the person you had last week, Gabby, with the YWCA, she's one of the people that we've brought in to do some of these workshops. So I've done some of them by myself and some of them with some of our partners.
And you've been a therapist for over 20 years.
Almost 20 years, yes.
Almost 20 years. So your experience arrays from a lot of different things. So we're very privileged and happy to have you here in Linwood Unified. So let's get right to it. We have 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes, with this podcast. We created this podcast to give parents information that they can't receive because they're not able to come to workshops because they work or they're not available due to personal reasons, that we all have. So we want to give important information out based on things that we see here affecting our students. And one of the things that we want to make sure that parents are aware is how to help your child have healthy relationships. We know that a lot of teenagers start dating young, and we want to make sure they stay healthy while they're dating, right? And have safe and healthy relationships. And one of the things that I was very impressed that you did here in the district is do a lot of healthy relationship workshops. When you were at Fireball High School, at Vista High School, and just in different schools, you bring that awareness, even at the younger age, because you translate that. So can you talk a little bit about what those healthy relationships workshop entail? Like, what do they include?
So it's typically a series of about a 10-week, it varies, sometimes 8 weeks, 10 weeks. And so we walk the youth through kind of having conversations of what is healthy, what does healthy look like, what are some of the red flags in what's abusive, right? So what's unhealthy, what's healthy, what's unhealthy, and what's abusive. And so in that, there's conversations of what does that look like. For some of these kids, they're also bringing into these relationships their own experiences of what they see at home, right? So we also talk about cycles, cycles of abuse. We touch on self-esteem, because self-esteem also impacts the people that you seek out and the people that you let into your circle. And so we also talk about relationships not just in a partner, but also is in friendships. So things that you tolerate in a friend, things that you look for in a friend, and how that will probably translate into a partner. So if you don't tolerate abuse from a friend, then chances are you're not going to tolerate abuse from a partner, right? And so we talk about all of that, and it's really just having these conversations and allowing the teens, to speak with each other and learn from each other about that.
Wow, that's very powerful, because I don't think we talk about enough. I don't know about you growing up, but me growing up, I didn't really talk about that. You just kind of meet someone and you just live life, right? So what do you see is their feedback when they're being part of those workshops?
We reflect a lot. It's very enlightening for some. Some kids will share things that they're involved in, things that have been very hurtful to them. It's interesting when we do exercises on what are some of the traits you would like to see in a partner, what are some of the things you would like to see. And for some that are dating, what they actually put down on paper is different than what they're getting, right? And so they reflect on that. And for some, they may go through changes after the workshop, relationship changes. For others, they're happy, with their responses and what they're getting from their peers and from their partners. But yeah, it helps them reflect. Sometimes they haven't had those questions. It's very interesting. One boy said one time in one of the sessions, he says, I don't want to date a girl who's rude to her parents. Wow. And so that's a big turnoff for me. And so then some of the other boys kind of reflect on that. It's like, oh yeah, that's true. So you kind of learn from each other. They learn from each other. So yeah.
That's really good. So going back to parents listening to this, how can parents contribute to a student's experience and having a healthy relationship? Like you said something about self-confidence, right? Self-confidence doesn't start when someone's 16, 17, 18. It starts when they're young, right? So how can parents contribute to a healthy person?
Well, when you talk about self-esteem, right, and confidence, of course, all of that is something that as you grow, you learn and you develop, some of those traits, right? But as a parent, I think it's a hard question, because we have a lot of times, parents that say, do as I say, but not as I do, right? And that's very hard, because kids are smart, they're smart. And if we model inappropriate behavior, disrespectful behavior, abusive behavior, it's very hard to then turn around and tell your young boy not to treat women like this.
Yeah.
Right? Or a girl not to tolerate this type of behavior, because they see that happening at home. So we have to be careful, and make sure that we're modeling stuff that is appropriate. If you're not in that type of situation, then maybe having that conversation with your child, and saying, this is not, I want you to be different. I want you to have better. I know that the type of relationship I'm in right now is not the best, and I'm working on getting out of it, or I'm working on changing things, but I want you to do better. I think it's having those conversations, because kids already, see it and feel it. So if you're honest with your child, I think you can start there. Obviously, if you're modeling a respectful household, a relationship with your partner where you're respectful, where you work together, where you're on the same page, and you respect one another, I think your kids will see that. And so now you can say, I expect you to treat your partner like that, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, you've been modeling that. So of course, it's having those conversations with your child, when they want to start dating. And what does dating look like for them, right? When you say you want to start dating, what does that look like for you? Like, what are you thinking? Because it could be something very innocent, like, oh, I just want to go to the movies, or I want to text somebody. I have a crush, right? And so they're not, at the beginning, they're not really maybe thinking, too far ahead.
Yeah.
So it's having those conversations. Because I think on average, a lot of our girls start dating at like 12 and a half, when
12 and a half?
Yeah, there's an article on WebMD that talks about that a lot of our girls are dating at 12 and a half, and our boys at 13 and a half. And so having those conversations, right? Like, what does dating look like for you? And they say a lot of times kids start with like group datings, where they go with their friends and they have someone they have a crush on or they like, but they go out as a group, and that's kind of like the beginning stages. And then they get into something more solo, where it's one-on-one. So, yeah.
One of the concerns that when you said 12 and a half, 13 and a half, one of the concerns that, and again, I want to put a side note that this is not judgment on anybody's parenting or beliefs or whatever. This is just what we see here as professionals and things that we have to help families overcome when things happen. So one of the things that you reminded me of when you said that was, when we see their children date young, 12, 13, and it's a type of dating not only like, oh, when I see you at school, but it's a dating where they're allowed to go to each other's homes. And they become part of each other's families. Like, I'll go to your house, you go to my house, we spend Christmas together, like, it's really enmeshed together. Like, then we see that time goes by and the kids are really young, but yet they don't want to be together anymore, and they can't separate because of that family tie. Have you seen that? Like, do you see concern in that? Or as a therapist, as a therapist, have you seen concern in that type of, experience?
Yes, everybody is different, and some families are okay, with incorporating, right, your child's partner into the family, and for some families that's okay. For other families, I do see some teens that have talked about when they are in an abusive relationship or they're uncomfortable or uneasy, it does become hard for them to then break ties because they feel pressured to stay with the partner, especially because your parents really like him, right? So let's just say an example of a boy and girl. And, the boy could appear very helpful, very nice in front of the family, but behind closed doors, he may be manipulative. He may put the person down. And so it makes it hard for the girl to now get out of that relationship or or talk bad about the person when her father likes the boy or her mother likes the boy, or the mother's cooking for him or inviting him to family gatherings. So,
Or if it's a girl, the same thing
right,
if it's vice
right.
versa.
You know, and it's having those conversations again. You know, it's being aware or trying to be aware of how they treat each other. You know, how they talk with each other, how they, you know, what they're texting. Right. Now, I'm not saying pick up the phone and invade every single conversation, but be aware of the way that they talk to each other, and if her attitude changes, her behavior changes, or vice versa.
Yeah, so if there are families listening to this and you do have young children that are dating, be careful in being aware. Like, and that's anyone, I guess, anyone at any age. If they are in a relationship, just be aware. Like,
well, it's especially little ones, you know, because in our country, you know, right now there's studies again, you know, this was on WebMD that also share that 25% of our high school girls have been in an abusive relationship or have encountered sexual abuse or physical abuse.
25%.
25%. And 33% of our teenagers have encountered some type of physical abuse, verbal abuse, or even sexual abuse. So with that in mind, you know, when you think about 25% of females, you know, being a female, you know, and having daughters of our own, they're young, you know, they're learning. They may not know what's right or what's acceptable, especially if they are being brought up differently, or maybe in a household where that's okay, then they get into a relationship of their own, and they may not know that it's not okay to get yelled at or belittled or, you know, or pushed around. So I think that, we have to protect our little ones, because there's a lot of information that they're getting from adults, you know, that are on these full-on relationships that may not necessarily be giving them the best ideas, right, of what a relationship should look like.
I asked Gabby, our other guest, this question, and I want to hear your answer. If you are a parent and your child is dating, and what are some red flags that you should look for to see if your child is in a healthy relationship or in a not healthy relationship?
So there's, you know, if their behavior changes, you know, if they're sad, if their clothing starts changing.
Their clothing, how?
So in a lot of abusive relationships, you know, some of the way you dress before and after, you know, will be telling. So if all of a sudden your daughter doesn't, we're talking about a boy-girl relationship. Let's say all of a sudden your daughter doesn't want to dress the same, or doesn't want to wear a dress, or all of a sudden she herself makes comments about, oh, I don't look good in this, or maybe I shouldn't wear this, or you know, I shouldn't be wearing this, when before she was okay with that. Those are things to kind of look out for, you know, like why is she
Why is
changing,
her
right?
mind
Changing, her perception of how she looks in it, when before she was fine wearing that outfit. Even for a young boy, right? If he starts also or making self-defeating thoughts or comments, right? I'm too fat, or I'm too skinny, or I'm not, you know, I'm not smart, I'm not good enough. Making comments like that when really they should be in a happy relationship, right? The person they're with should be making them happy. So if they're making these types of comments, and they're with somebody that's supposedly making them happy, it should make you wonder, like, what's happening, what's being said. If they start breaking away from friends, You know, like in our high school boys, girls, they have a certain group of friends. And if they start breaking away from those friends because the boyfriend or the girlfriend doesn't like them, and then that's, you know, that's also kind of a warning sign, right? Like, why doesn't your friend, why doesn't your boyfriend or your girlfriend like your friends? And little by little, they start kind of isolating them. So they start pushing away their friends and not really spending time with them, right?
Yeah. And of course, their grades, right? Maybe their grades are being affected.
Well,
or not really.
Well, you have kids that focus on the relationship a lot and don't want to study as much, but that's where you as a parent should come in and discipline and try and set those boundaries and set those times for their work. But I think it could affect someone in a good relationship, because now they're just focused on the partner and somebody who's also in a bad relationship. Yeah.
So if we have a student hearing right now, or even, let's stick to students, because I think adults are a different resource, and they are in an abusive relationship, what would you tell them to do right now?
If the student is in an abusive relationship,
and let's say they're in our Linwood schools.
Yeah. I would ask if their parent is aware, you know, if their parent is aware of the relationship.
And if they say, I'm scared to tell my parent.
Yeah. So then maybe we could tell them together.
Okay.
Right?
So you would say reach out to help, seek help from us.
Definitely. They should reach out. Because I think there's, you know, when you think about when we look at the 25%, right, of girls, of teenage girls that have encountered some type of abuse, physical or sexual, I think we are not aware that that's happening. You know, we're not aware of these students in these abusive relationships. And so, of course, coming forward, telling somebody, you know, letting somebody know, so that way we can have that conversation, let them know this is not okay.
Yeah.
You should not be you should not be treated like this. And then bring in a parent so that they're able to have that protection at home, you know, and so they're able to intervene, because we can only do so much at school and on campus, but the parent can also take action and protect them at home.
Yeah. So seek help.
So working together,
seek help. We're here to support. Can you talk a little bit about some of the resources that we have for students here in Linwood Unified related to this and just in general?
Well, we have we have therapists, you know, on campuses where we're able to work with students one-on-one. We also have agencies that we collaborate with in our communities that we can also refer them to for individual therapy. Family therapy as well. And then, of course, we have agencies like the YWCA that specialize more in youth that have been sexually abused. So we do have, you know, those types of resources.
So we talked a lot about like girls and being in, are boys in danger of being involved also? As the victims? Can we talk a little bit about that?
Yes, well, definitely. When we talked about the 33%, and we talk about that being the number for, you know, on the WebMD, you know, where they talk about that. This is something or information that's gathered also through the American Academy of Pediatrics, you know, where they give this information about our youth. And when I say 33%, that's 33% of our teenagers. So that obviously, that encompasses the boys as well, because boys are in relationships, right?
Right.
And so, so them too, you know, getting verbal abuse from the girl, or being manipulated in relationships. So absolutely, that happens as well. Some of our girls, you know, we hear the word toxic, you know, and some boys, believe it or not, you know, you hear these things being thrown around, where they say the more toxic the better, or they kind of some boys look for that kind of stuff, and so so you definitely want to inform them that this is not okay. A girl calling you names or putting you down or cussing at you, calling you out of your name, manipulating you not to hang out with your friends or not to hang out with your family. That's not okay.
Right.
And sometimes young boys also don't know that, okay, this is wrong. Maybe this is wrong. Maybe I shouldn't tolerate this from her. Maybe, her slapping me, or even scratching me, or pinching me. This is not okay.
Yeah.
And so the boys too get drawn into those relationships, those abusive relationships as well. And so again, it's in the healthy relationships workshops, it's, are you okay with this? Is this something that you would like in a relationship? Somebody that cusses at you, or somebody that is manipulative, or wants to check your text, or wants to know where you're at all the time. Those are red flags.
Yeah.
It's something that it's not healthy.
Yeah. And I think what worries me about boys is boys are more reserved with their feelings. Like they're worried that they might be seen as weak if they say something, or boys aren't supposed to, you're tough. You take it, and but it's not okay.
Right.
And I think our first step is talking about it and continuing to talk about it as parents. And it's about what you deserve, right? Everyone deserves respect. Every human being deserves to be spoken to with respect. Whether generationally it wasn't happening, it starts with you. That's how I feel. I feel like at some point, which is why we're here talking about it, because we want everybody to know that even if your parents, your grandparents, and everyone before you did not live a healthy lifestyle, it doesn't mean it can't start now. So thank you for that information, because I think that as educators, not only are we here to help our kids become academically educated, but in every area. And healthy relationships is a very important topic that we want to bring. And I know you've been advocating for that the last 8 years since you started our workshops. So thank you for coming. As we wrap up today's episode, what would be the top 3 tips that you would give to parents on how to support their, and I'm sorry, I'm throwing top 3 or top 2, whatever you have, to give our families?
Talk to your kids, if they're ready to be in a relationship, if they're expressing to you that they're interested in somebody that they want to date, talk to them about it. It's okay, as scary as that is. And every family is different. You have different cultures that are, that are involved in this. You have different religions, different practices. Every household is going to look different, right? There's not a blueprint that says this is exactly what you need to do. Every family is going to be different. But when your child starts talking about it, listen, and it's okay, to ask questions. Well, what does dating look like for you? What does that mean for you, right? And so that you can start having those conversations. What are your expectations in a relationship?
That's good.
And so having those types of conversations. And again, what is healthy, if you as a parent can talk to them about that, and what's unhealthy, like what you feel is healthy and unhealthy, and talk to your child about that.
That's good. And in every podcast that we've had, that's been the number one recommendation. Talk to your child. Talk, whatever the topic is, talk to your child. I think communication helps a lot of things. And I think as parents, it's learning also how to talk to our children, especially as topics change.
Yeah.
Like this is a difficult topic, but it's one that we can't ignore.
Right. We can't avoid it.
We can't avoid it as much as we want to. So again, I always end this with telling all our families that if you are in need of resources, we're going to add some resources at the end of this recording, but we also have counselors at the school sites. We have
that's true too.
licensed clinical social workers. We have social emotional learning specialists at the elementary schools. We have community school case managers. So there's a lot of people that can help you. If you need any type of support, please go to a school site. Come here to the district office. We want to support you in any area, even if we can just connect you to an agency that are specialists in whatever topic we're talking about. And like Graciela mentioned earlier, the YWCA has been working closely with us for the last 15 years to provide different resources, especially related to this topic. Right. Dating violence awareness, domestic violence, teen dating violence, and a lot of services that they have. And we'll add their information also at the end of this podcast. But thank you for coming. We have another episode hopefully next week on healthy relationships. And again, Graciela Ribota, our licensed clinical social worker for Linwood Unified. She's a little shy, but
very shy.
But thank you for being here. You have a lot of wealth of knowledge for our families. And thank you, families, for tuning in. We know these are very difficult topics that we want to just bring awareness. That's our goal for these episodes. It's just to bring awareness and support, to let you know that you're not alone. We're here to support you, help you, and guide you. As a school district, we care about you. And again, our website, www.mylusd.org. If you go under Student Services and you go under Health Collaborative, there's other resources there as well. But all around internet, on our website, at our school site, we're here to support you and offer you different resources. So with that being said, thank you for joining us, and we hope you have a great rest of your day.